Alrighty, Roo, what is going on, everybody? My name is Blitzwinger, ladies and gents. Today we're going to be taking a look at the Penguin Arctic Roller, which is set number 70911. That's a little bit of an odd number there, so nevertheless, though, today we're going to be taking a look at the Penguin Arctic Roller set. Hopefully it's a really fun set. I believe that it is only a LEGO store exclusive, or a LEGO toy shop exclusive. I don't remember what it's called, like the actual online store or in stores, like actual LEGO stores. So keep that in mind if you're like, hey, why can't I see the set on Toys R Us shelves or Walmart or Target or where else do they? Mastermind Toys or any other place where they sell LEGO. I don't know what other places do sell LEGO, but the reason why you're not finding it is because it's actually an exclusive set. Now, with that in mind, let me go on ahead and take a quick little moment here to put the set together, then we can discuss it, and I'll let you know what I think. Now, of course, don't forget, guys, if you enjoyed the video, click the like button, and don't forget to let me know what you think in the comment section below. Are the minifigures good? Is the build good? Let me know. I'd love to get a cool discussion going about the set. So here we have the Arctic Roller fully assembled, and my goodness, is this vehicle an absolute masterpiece, at least in my mind. I just think they did such an excellent job with the way that this whole vehicle turned out. So without further ado, let's jump right into the vehicle itself. And I mean, what can I say? This thing is absolutely beautiful. To me, this is the most characterful vehicle that I've seen possibly ever from LEGO for any character. Again, don't get me wrong, of course, we could bring up the Batmobile and how nicely done that vehicle is in many different iterations, but I just love how much of Penguin's character is in the design of this vehicle. Like, it totally feels like something that Penguin would honestly have. It totally feels like something that Penguin would be able to drive. Like, for example, if we look at the last set that I reviewed for the Killer Croc, that truck is cool and all, but you don't really think of Killer Croc as driving a truck. You know, like, you're not gonna be like, oh, you know, that very important truck that Killer Croc would have. Whereas the Penguin would absolutely have something along these lines. It is an absolutely gorgeous design and a really luxurious feel to this entire vehicle. So let's first and foremost discuss the play features of the vehicle. And let's begin on actually the back of the vehicle, because we have this trunk right back here. And if we pop that open just like so, we can see our first additional play feature, and that is the awesome little jet ski right here. Now, again, I 1000% agree with anyone who would say, hey, that thing looks somewhat lame-o, and I'm not gonna lie that it definitely feels like something that was restricted by the budget that they had for this particular set, because it's very clear that there's very few details to this particular set. But what is there is pretty cool, like the idea of trying to create a little penguin design out of the jet ski, I think is pretty cool as well. So they did try their best, I think. Now, the other thing to consider is that maybe if it was a little bit more complex, it would not actually be able to fit into the back of the car. So I guess maybe there is some more elements to consider as to why it turned out the way that it did. When we flip the vehicle over to the side, we can see right here that there are these, I guess maybe swordfish on the sides, which are very much decorative, but I think they're there also as accessories. So if you'd like, you could go on ahead and unhook those and then utilize them as accessories for the Penguin himself, such as like so. So you could actually have like a little sword to utilize against Batman. So I think that that's pretty cool as well. Or if you want, you could obviously pretend that it has some sort of a laser blasting capability where it would like fire away as the vehicle is chasing someone. And then there's also a really cool hidden little area right down here where we can see two pistols hidden, and there are actually two on each side. So that's really cool, and if you want, you could go on ahead and remove those and have the Penguin utilize them as well. So pretty cool little element there as well. And then last but certainly not least, as far as firing action on the vehicle, we can look at the very front of the car, and you'll notice that there are two torpedoes right there. Well, this little point right up here allows you to press those in and fire away your missiles at your foes that are in front of you. So very cool. I like that they went with the blue, very kind of fitting, you know, with a penguin, maybe some sort of a freezing element or like water rockets or something like that. So I think that works and is quite characterful as well. The other thing is, by the way, there's also an additional one of these, so if you lose one of your two, you can utilize that one. Final thing before we move on to the details of the vehicle, I wanted to go on ahead and point out, I personally had a little bit of difficulty actually putting these back in because sometimes it just does not want to like click. What I would recommend is just pull on this, because if you pull this up, the mechanism that pushes down on the rockets right down there will be pushed up enough to where the rockets will spring in correctly. So with all that out of the way, now let's discuss the details of the vehicle. There are some key details that are brought to life via stickers, such as up here on the rooftop, this little studded design. The vents on the front of the engine are pretty cool, and of course done up through a sticker as well. This piece right here is actually a printed on piece, so that's very, very nice to see. On the side right here, we have another vent or some sort of exhaust, which once again is done through sticker work as well. And then over on the front side here, the High Flyer license plate that we see over there and the High Flyer license plate that we see on the back are both stickers as well. My tiny one wish, as far as another sticker would have been included in the set, is something onto the back here. I think that that would have been really cool if there was some sort of like a penguin or something like that that was glued onto here. I think that would have been really, really cool and would have given this vehicle a bit more of a exaggerated feel that we have seen in the Lego Batman movie. Now, as far as the rolling capability of the vehicle, it rolls well, but not excellently, at least in my particular case. I do feel like the back tires back here sometimes, maybe, I'm not sure if it's the clearance or maybe they don't have the greatest rotating abilities, but they do feel a little sluggish sometimes. The front ones never do. They feel very smooth, but even as I roll this, you can kind of see that the rotation on here is a lot smoother than it is on the back pieces. So that's a bit unfortunate, but it still does roll fine, so it does its job. I really love the assembly of the front lights here. The headlights just look almost like a living creature. Like you could almost try to animate this for them to communicate, you know, with the headlights or something like that. These could rotate a little bit. Like it just looks really, really, really crazy and really, really well done. Again, what I love about this thing is it feels very prestigious and fancy, but at the same time, it also has this very unique feel that I haven't seen on any other Lego build. Speaking of very unique pieces, I personally have never had this piece in any other Lego set. This is all one piece. It starts from down here and works its way all onto this little hook point. And I know some people are not fans of this kind of stuff in Lego because they almost feel like, hey, that's not really building components. You're just kind of creating almost like a shell or a clamshell to place onto figures. I get that, but for me, it's really cool to see because I've never seen this type of piece, and I'm just thinking like how many different designs and different elements this type of piece could be utilized for, and that's really exciting. If it is something new, actually, let me know down in the comment section below. Have there been any other colors that this piece been cast in? Because I personally don't know, and I'd love to know if you guys could let me know. Did I say no a lot there? Yes, I did. Now, last but certainly not least, before we move on, let's pop the hood right here, and we can just take that off just like so. And then within it, we can see a nice little sticker for the speedometer so that Penguin can keep track of how fast he's going, even though he probably does not care. There's also a nice steering wheel right there, and some cool looking, almost like beige leather elements that are available as well. And for those of you wondering what the Penguin looks like inside the vehicle, as you can see, he fits very, very, very comfortably, and surprisingly so, even though it looks like the top hat will not fit once we place the roof back on top. Since the roof has a hollow concave design right here, it actually works perfectly fine. So that is awesome that you can actually have him sit in the Arctic roller very, very comfortably. So speaking of the Penguin, let's move on to the minifigures, and here is Penguin looking very comfortable in his fancy schmancy suit here. I will say that I agree with the notion that this figure maybe does not fit exactly in the art style of the Lego Batman movie design, similarly to like Man-Bat in the Batmobile set, where the expression is not quite exaggerated. Like it almost feels like something we would see from the Arkham games or something like that. But to me, what is here is really awesome. Like the figure, they nailed it, and they did a really, really good job of creating a very cool, believable Penguin design. From the top hat, which is obviously pretty simplistic, not too many details to that. I wish they would have maybe had like some sort of a feather or like a penguin design on the side side, because again, I think those kinds of elements would have made this feel more like a Lego Batman movie design. Like maybe they could have just printed like the beak or the face of a penguin up top. I think that would have been a nice touch as well. The face itself is actually really nicely done. I love the little eyeglass piece that he has. That looks wonderful. The expression is quite cool. Unfortunately, he does not have another expression since his hat would not cover that, so that's a bit of an annoyance. I wish maybe they would have included an additional head or something like that. I know that there's no precedent for that, but I think it would have been quite wonderful to see. There is this really cool fur color that he has, which works well for this character, I guess, because again, when you think of the penguin, you think of, you know, wealth, and like his license plate is High Roller, so he's obviously a fancy schmancy man, at least in his regard, or in his own mind. I love the little detail of the cufflinks right here on the suit, so that's great, but my favorite thing about this minifigure is actually the print work on the torso, because Penguin is usually pretty chubby, and I really love that they were able to execute that to mimic the idea that he's pretty fat, because he's got this little button that's pulling apart. Like you can see the clothes are like trying to stay together, but they're getting pulled apart. So I think they did a very good job of trying to mimic the idea of Penguin being a little bit more on the heavy side. He also does come along with the umbrella right here, so that's a nice accessory. I wish there would have been actually another one in the set, just as a spare one. I think that would have been really quite cool to see. And then as far as print work on the back, there is nothing on the torso nor on the legs, and of course they are using the shorter legs for the Penguin, which again in my opinion is really cool, because anytime they play with scale and try to mimic the idea of scale is a welcome sight by me, because I love the idea of having figures and characters actually in scale and not just have everyone in the same height. So I think that that's quite cool as well. The final accessory that I wanted to touch on was actually the extra spare blaster or pistol that is included in the set. If you want, you can obviously equip that onto the Penguin and have him ready to go one-on-one with the Batman. And speaking of Batman, here he is, and he's looking quite the same, because we've seen this design a gajillion times at this point. So just quickly running through him, for those of you that maybe have not seen my other reviews that featured this minifigure. Pretty nice print work, of course, on the torso. If you like the yellow and black design, I'm sure you would not be disappointed. They have implemented the new utility belt piece for this figure, and he does actually come along with a spare one of those, so that is wonderful. The back of the figure right here, again, has some really nice print work to emulate the idea of musculature, or I guess the actual suit being on Batman, so I think they did a pretty good job with that. The cape is the soft fabric type, so I'm a fan of those. I know some people don't like them, but I think that they are better than the harder kind of material that they used to utilize. Just my personal preference. Oh, and also I forgot to mention that not only is there a spare utility belt, there's also a spare batarang. And finally, Batman also has an additional expression available to him as well. So with that in mind, ladies and gents, there you have it. That is the Arctic roller that belongs to one Penguin. And again, it's definitely a smaller set, both in the amount of pieces and just the amount of minifigures that are included in the set. But I have to say that I am very, 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 very pleasantly surprised by how awesome the vehicle turned out. I'm a big fan of what they did with the design of this thing and how it translates well into the character of the Penguin. Like, it is 100% the kind of vehicle that I would think to myself, like, hey, what would Penguin drive? Or what would be the kind of vehicle that I would love for Penguin to have? And this is like a perfect match of that. So I think that they did a very, very, very good job with that. Tiny little elements that I said before I would have loved to see maybe differentiated a bit, like additional print work on the Penguin, maybe another sticker or two for the actual vehicle would have been nice. But other than that, I am very, very happy with what we got here.